Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, chemistry paper 1, it's an MCQ paper. Paper 1 is for O levels. In IGCSE, this is P2. But don't worry, both have the same syllabus, same paper pattern. I always tell this to my students, कि please do not obsess over O level or IGCSE. Both are equally fine. ठीक है, both are equally fine. Same syllabus है, आपकी तैयारी हो जाएगी. October November 2025 P11. This is not the variant conducted in Pakistan and elsewhere. But don't worry, again, ये भी एक myth bust कर दूँ. फर्क नहीं पड़ता वेरिएंट 1 है या वेरिएंट 2 है. CI वाले या nobody is while making the paper thinking this is variant 1 or variant 2. They design it the same way, right? So there is essentially no difference. Don't ever think you should only do variant 2 if you are from that zone or variant 1 if you are from that zone, right? This should be enough, Hamza. लेकिन उसके अलावा जो जो मैं कहूँ उसको follow करना है. Whatever I say, you'll have to follow that. ठीक है? You'll have to follow my instructions, and if you do, definitely it should be more than enough, right? अच्छा, ठीक है जी. Okay, so the first question. The pressure of a sample of air is reduced and the temperature remains constant. Okay, temperature is constant, right? Temperature is constant. And the pressure is reduced. The pressure is decreased. Which row describes the changes in volume of the air and distance between the particles of the air? Okay, we have done it. We have talked about it in physics as well, something called Boyle's law. It says the Boyle's law says that whenever the temperature is constant, the pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. It means if the pressure is increased, volume will decrease. If the pressure is decreased, volume will increase, right? So what is it saying? It is saying the pressure is reduced, it is decreased. So the volume must increase, especially because the temperature is constant. So the volume must increase. And what about the distance between the particles in the air? See, volume increase होने का मतलब ही ये है कि जो particles once they were once closer to each other, they are now further apart from each other. That is why they are occupying more space, right? This is very small space, this is very big space, hence volume is increased. Volume only increases when particles move further apart. So distance between particles also increases, hence volume also increases. D is the correct option. Which substance would diffuse most quickly? For rate of diffusion, how fast something diffuses, we have two factors. First factor is the temperature. Higher temperature means it will diffuse more rapidly. And the second factor is the MR or the mass. Smaller mass means it will diffuse faster. For example, I always give this example. If you have two people, one is a slim, lean, athletic guy, and the other is a big, fat guy, right? Very bad drawing. I don't even know what I drew. But you know, if you make the fat guy run, he will run very slow. He won't have the same speed. However, if you make the slim guy run, he will run very, very fast, right? So whichever gas has less MR or less mass will diffuse quickly. And whichever is heavier, has more mass, will diffuse slower, right? So firstly, let's establish the temperature. The higher temperature will diffuse more quickly. Which of these have higher temperature? 0 or 25? 0 or 25? 25 is the higher one. So let's eliminate the options that say 0 degrees Celsius. Now let's compare carbon dioxide and neon. How do we know which is heavier, which is lighter? Calculate the MR. MR essentially tells you relative molecular mass. How do you calculate the MR? Refer to the periodic table. Let's refer to the periodic table. So neon is a noble gas existing as a monoatomic gas. This is neon. The MR of this is 20. MR essentially is the nucleon number, if that makes sense to you. So neon is 20, and carbon is 12. Carbon is 12. And what is oxygen? Oxygen is 16. Let's actually see. So neon was 20. The MR or the AR, beg your pardon, the AR of neon is 20. So neon, the mass of neon is 20 and the mass of carbon dioxide is what? 12 plus 16 into 2. Why 2? One oxygen has 16 mass, we have two oxygens. So we multiply this. 32 plus 12 comes out to be what? Comes out to be 44. So carbon dioxide is more than twice as heavy. So this will diffuse slower, neon will diffuse faster. So it should be neon at 25 degrees Celsius. Another answer that comes out to be D. I'll get to your questions in a bit. I'll get to each and every question that you guys say. Okay? ओके अच्छा, इसको डिस्कस करेंगे. जारिया इंशाल्लाह आफ्टर द क्लास या ब्रेक जो लेंगे हम 20 MCQs के बाद, बाय द वे हम एक 5-10 मिनट की ब्रेक लेते हैं. उस ब्रेक में आई विल सी योर मैसेज इंशाल्लाह. ठीक है, ओके आगे आ जाओ. द मेन कंपोनेंट ऑफ मिनरल X इज कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट. दिस वन. ओके. X also contains tiny grains of silicon oxide. Okay, now calcium carbonate is a compound on its own. SiO2 is a compound on its own. When two compounds are together and they're not chemically combined, why? Because it contains tiny grains of silicon oxide. अगर chemically combined होते तो silicon oxide की identity ही change हो गई होती, right? These are physically combined. Two different compounds physically combined are a mixture. So it is definitely a mixture. One thing we know about X, that X is a mixture. It is not a compound. Akela calcium carbonate hota, we would have said it is a compound. Akela SiO2 hota, we would have said it is a compound. But it is a mixture of these two things. So X is a mixture. It is not a compound. So it has to be either C or D. And let's see statement 2. It says X contains exactly 4 different elements or X contains exactly 5 different elements. Let's count the number of elements. The number of elements in calcium carbonate, calcium 1, carbon 2, oxygen 3. So you have 3 elements. The number of elements in SiO2, silicon 1, oxygen 2. So you have 2 different elements. So conventional wisdom would suggest that 3 plus 2 is 5. So it should be 5. But no, that is the wrong answer. Why? Because it's talking about different elements. You see, oxygen is here as well, oxygen is here as well. You don't count them twice. You say that they are one, right? They both are essentially the same thing. Sorry. So you have oxygen first one, silicon second, carbon third, and calcium 4. So you have 4 different elements. 4 different elements. So it should have 4 different elements, not 5. This was a small trick in this question which you were expected to identify. ठीक है जी. The structure of hydroxylamine NH2OH is shown. Okay, they've shown all the bonds. Which row about hydroxylamine is correct? Okay, let's talk about, and the rows, the columns essentially are asking about the total number of electrons in the whole molecule and total number of electrons in the bonds of the molecule. Now this is a hydrogen atom, nitrogen atom, oxygen atom, and hydrogen atom, right? You have these atoms. How do you know the number of electrons in an atom? You see the number of protons. The number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. What? In an atom. In an atom only, not in an ion. And these are atoms because it's a molecule, covalent bonding. So atom remains like an atom. So let's go to hydrogen. Hydrogen will have 1 electron. We know from the periodic table the proton number is 1, hence electron is 1 as well. So one of this hydrogen, one of this hydrogen, and one of this hydrogen. Cool. How many electrons does oxygen have? It has 8. If you don't believe me, go to the periodic table and see for yourself. How many electrons does nitrogen have? It has 7. If you do not believe me, go to the periodic table and see for yourself. So 7 plus 8, 15 plus 3, it should be 18 electrons. So 18 electrons in total in the whole molecule. 18 electrons. So it should be either C or D. A or B निकल गए. अच्छा, सारी options वैसे C or D आ रही हैं by chance. Total number of electrons in the bonds of the molecule. Let's count the number of bonds. How many bonds does this molecule have? It has 1, 2, 3 bonds? No, you're wrong there. It has 4 bonds. But you can only see 3 lines, right? One line means 1 bond, by the way, guys. But you can only see 3. How come 4, sir? How come 4? You see, O and H also have a bond. They just have not shown it to confuse you. Not shown it to confuse you. So let's actually redraw this structure. NH2O and H. Now you see 1 bond, 2 bond, 3 bond, and 4 bonds. 4 bonds. And this means a single bond, means 1 electron coming from nitrogen, 1 coming from oxygen. So each bond is gonna have 2 electrons. If it has 4 bonds, it will have 4 into 2, 8 electrons involved in bonding, or 8 bonding electrons, right? So it's not 6, it is essentially 8. So C is the correct option. This was the trick. If you had missed this bond, if you had said, okay, we only have 1, 2, 3 bonds, you would have multiplied 3 by 2 and given the answer to be 6, which would have been wrong in this case. So this was a little small trick involved in this question that the examiner expected you to identify. Hydrogen have only 1 proton. Hydrogen does have 1 proton, yeah. मानूर क्या रिपीट करना है इसके अंदर? सो भाई ना, यू डोंट नीड टू. ये जो एक लाइन होती है इसका मतलब यही होता है, एक डॉट क्रॉस. इट मीन्स द शेयरिंग. हादी देखो, अ बॉन्ड मीन्स शेयरिंग ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर मैं ऐसे कहूँ ना, अगर मैं ऐसे कहूँ, you see H and H, H2, this is H2, this line essentially means the sharing of electrons. अगर इसे मैं खोल के दिखाऊँ, this is one hydrogen atom, this is another hydrogen atom, and this line meant that they are sharing electrons. This one electron is coming from this hydrogen, this other electron is coming from this hydrogen. So अब देखो, bond एक था लेकिन उसके अंदर electrons 2 involved थे, एक इस वाले का, एक इस वाले का. So हमेशा you multiply the number of bonds with 2 to get the number of electrons involved. Does this make sense? Don't worry, Iman, I'm recording it on another software because I have to upload it on YouTube. So I'm recording it on OBS and I'll upload it there. I'm not recording using Google Meet, so don't worry. बहुत गर्मी है यार. अलबीहा क्या नहीं समझ आया? What do you don't get? how come it's 8? Albiha, you do agree that the number of bonds multiply by 2 is going to give you the number of electrons involved, right? Because every bond has 2 electrons. Cool. For example, this is a hydrogen bond. It has 2 electrons involved, right? You can never have one electron being shared. That is literally impossible. 2 electrons have to be shared, right? So single bond means 2 electron. Okay, so it has 4 bonds. I am saying it has 4 bonds. How are there 4 bonds? You see, they have shown you this structure, but you should ask yourself, O and H, they're not showing a bond between O and H. There has to be a bond. They just have not shown you that. So it is O and H. You redrew this structure and showed this bond. Now count the number of bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bonds into 2 electrons in each bond. Total 8 electrons being involved in bonding. That is the answer. ठीक है जी. अच्छा, metal lose electrons when they combine with a non-metal to form an ionic compound. We know that. Calcium combines with hydrogen to form ionic compound calcium hydride CaH2. Okay. How many electrons are there in the outer shell of each of the 2 hydride ions in CaH2? Okay. Calcium is in group 2, so it will form Ca2 plus. Hydrogen, and since it is losing these 2 electrons, hydrogen must gain this electron, right? Hydrogen must gain this electron, and we have 2 hydrogens, so it should be hydrogen minus and hydrogen minus. हुआ क्या यहाँ पे बच्चों? ये देखो हुआ यहाँ पर ये कि calcium, you have CaH2 means 2 hydrogen atoms and only 1 calcium. This 1 calcium will lose 2 electrons, get a 2 plus charge. 1 electron will be given to hydrogen, it will get -1. Another electron will be given to this hydrogen, it will also get -1. Right? Essentially हो ये रहा है. ठीक है? Are you trying to get what I'm saying here? Okay, now it has a minus charge. So normal hydrogen, if you take normal hydrogen and see in the periodic table, how many electrons does it have? It has 1 electron because it has 1 proton. Atom में electron और proton equal होते हैं. और जब इसने एक gain किया, when it gained 1 from calcium, got a minus charge as well, it had another electron, right? So 2 electrons in this hydrogen atom, and then 2 electrons in this hydrogen atom as well. So in each hydrogen atom, now called ions, hydride ions, in each hydride ion we have 2 electrons. Does this make sense? This is a little tricky to understand if you don't know the concept, but bear with me. Is this clear? Is this concept clear? Is this concept clear? I can explain. मैं कर देता हूँ, इजी हो जाऊँ, कर देता हूँ. अच्छा, देखो बच्चों, हो क्या रहा है essentially? You see, calcium hydride, it's an ionic compound. Ionic compound में चलो एक और चीज़ बताता हूँ. Ionic compound में always tell the criss-cross method, right? If it is CaH2, इसका मतलब पता है क्या है? It means this 2 is here as the charge of Ca, and here it is 1. This 1 is here as the charge of H. So essentially हुआ क्या? You have Ca2 plus and you have H minus, and you have 2 H minus because you have 2 hydrogens. ये हो रहा है यहाँ पे, ठीक है? एंड नाउ हमें पता है नॉर्मल हाइड्रोजन में, देखो नॉर्मल हाइड्रोजन जो है उसमें 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन और 1 प्रोटॉन होता है. नॉर्मल हाइड्रोजन हैज 1 प्रोटॉन. हाउ डू यू नो? गो टू द पीरियोडिक टेबल एंड सी. If this hydrogen has 1 electron and I say it has now a -1 charge, it means एक और इलेक्ट्रॉन कहीं से आया है. So 1 plus 1, now it has 2 electrons, right? 2 electrons in one hydride ion. That is exactly what it said. How many number of electrons are there in the outer shell of each of the 2 hydride ions? So इस hydride ion में H minus के बाद 2 electrons हो गए. Normal H में 1 electron है, but when it has a minus charge means it gained 1 more electron because electron is minus, electron is negative. So 1 plus 1 is going to give you 2 electrons. Hence each hydride ion is going to have 2 electrons. Hydrogen atom कहता तो 1 electron होता. Hydride ion कह रहा है तो 2 electron है. Is this clear? Is this clear? Is it like it's going to lose 2 electrons to 2 different hydrogen, right? So it's going to 2 in 1 hydrogen, right? Yeah, technically you're right. Clear. मैडम क्या confusion है मैडम? क्या confusion है? अच्छा मैं बताता हूँ. So calcium has the electron number 20. ठीक है, इट मीन्स 2,8,8,2 इसकी कन्फिगरेशन है. इसने ये आउटर शेल 2 लूज करने, तो इसका ये आउटर शेल बन जाएगा. इट विल हैव स्टेबल कॉन्फिगरेशन, इट विल लूज दीज 2. व्हाट अबाउट हाइड्रोजन? हाइड्रोजन यू हैव 2 हाइड्रोजन्स, 1 electron in each hydrogen, 1 electron in each hydrogen, right? Now when calcium loses 2 electrons, 1 electron will come here, the other electron will come here, अब इस हाइड्रोजन में कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हो गए? 2. इस हाइड्रोजन में कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हो गए? 2. दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इट्स आस्किंग. हाउ मेनी इलेक्ट्रॉन्स इन ईच ऑफ द 2 हाइड्राइड आयंस? 2 in this, 2 in this, so 2 in each. Hence C is the answer. What is the property of diamond? It can be used as a lubricant. No, that is a property of graphite. Need to remember. It has a melting point below 200. No, it has a very, very high melting point, way above 200. It has good electrical conductivity. No. Why? Because it does not have any free electrons. All 4 electrons are used in bonding. Yaad karo. It is extremely hard, yes. And that is why it is used for cutting. Because it's very hard, very easily can cut substances. So hence D is the correct option. Okay, which statement about the bonding in copper is correct? Now what is copper? Pure copper. What is copper? Copper is a metal. So if it's a metal, it must have metallic bonding. Not ionic, not covalent, only and only metallic bonding. And what is metallic bonding? Metallic bonding is positive ions surrounded by a sea of delocalized movable electrons. Delocalized movable electrons. Right? So let's say copper atoms are attracted to the sea of delocalized electrons. Yes, we have a sea of delocalized electrons, but these are not copper atoms. No, these are copper ions. These are copper ions. So atoms cannot be the answers. It has to be copper ions. Either C or D. Let's see. Are attracted to the sea of delocalized electrons? Yes, this seems to be correct in my opinion. What's wrong with statement D? What's wrong with statement D? It says are attracted to a shared pair of electrons. No, shared pairing of electrons is in covalent bonding, but here we don't have covalent bonding. We have metallic bonding. Why? Because it's a metal. It is a metal. In metals, you always and always have metallic bonding. It has to get attracted to the free electrons, not the shared pair of electrons. There is no sharing of electrons anyway. Okay? Chalo. Aluminum ions react with sulfate ions to form aluminum sulfate. Which row shows the correct empirical formula and the ionic formula of aluminum sulfate? Okay, so Al3 plus and SO4 2 minus. Now this is a positive ion, this is a negative ion. Whenever a positive and negative ions react together, what do they form? They form an ionic compound because they are ions, right? They form ionic compound. And whenever they form an ionic compound, what do we do? I always tell you the crisscross method. So this charge goes down there, it will become Al2. This 3 goes down there, this will become SO4 3. So it is going to be Al2 SO4 3. So it should be Al2 SO4 3, and it has opened the structure. So this 3 is with S as well. So it should be S3 Al2 S3, and this 3 is with oxygen as well. So 3 into 4 O12. 3 into 4 is 12 O12. So it should be Al2 S3 O12. Al2 S3 O12. So the only correct option is C, because again this, and it's talking about the empirical formula, not the molecular formula. My bad. It's talking about the empirical formula. So this is the molecular formula. This is the molecular formula. Let's deduce the empirical formula. But so what is the empirical formula? Empirical formula is the simplest whole number ratio of the molecular formula. Can it be divided further? Can it be divided further by any whole number to give whole numbers? 2, 3, 12. I don't think. This is already the simplest. कोई ऐसे नंबर से डिवाइड और कर ही नहीं सकते. किससे करोगे? 2 से करोगे. 2 ones are okay. This will come out to be 6, but divide 3 by 2, it will give you 1.5. It's not a whole number. Empirical formula is the simplest whole number ratio. So this is essentially the empirical formula itself. Hence C is the only correct option. You don't even need to see the ionic formula. And even if you would like to see it, so you see Al3 plus, and you have 2 of Al3 plus, don't we? We have 2 of Al and it has 3 plus charge. Okay. You have how many SO4? You have 3 of SO4. Yes, you have 3 of them. And what is the charge on an SO4 sulfate ion? It is 2 minus. It is 2 minus here as well. So bingo, C is the correct option. A little tricky question if you don't know the concept, but I hope you understood. Yeah, that's how you should do it. So Maina, that is exactly how it should be done. Got it? People, clear? Especially the new people. Are you guys clear? Neha, Ahmed, Arkam, 4 hoga, it asks for total number of the hydride ions. Yes, Arkam, exactly. Salman, theek hai. Good. Chalo, excellent. We're going at a good pace. I like it. Which statement is correct? So it says the concentration of a solution is expressed in decimeter cube per mole. This is wrong. Why? Because the concentration is in mole per decimeter cube, not decimeter cube per mole. These are two very different things. This is wrong. The empirical formula of a compound always gives the actual numbers of each type of atoms in one molecule. Not necessarily. Empirical is the simplest whole number ratio. Actual number. For example, I take a molecule of ethene, C2H4. This is the actual number of particles, right? But अगर इसका empirical देखो तो this is CH2. Is this the actual number of each type of atom in alkene, in ethene? No, it's not. This is. So this is wrong as well. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The molecular formula of a compound always contains more atoms than the empirical formula. I want you guys to tell me, is this statement correct or not? I want you guys to tell me. Is this correct or not? Not always. Exactly. Why? Because sometimes the molecular formula is the empirical formula. Prime example, this one. We just did it. This is the molecular formula and this is also the empirical formula. Cannot be divided further. Right? So empirical formula will also have the same number of particles, the same number of atoms of each type as the molecular formula. ठीक है, so ये भी गलत हो गई. The only correct logical option remaining is D, and let's read it out. The relative atomic mass of an element is the average mass of one atom of the element divided by 1/12 of the mass of one atom of carbon-12. This is the proper definition. You are expected to memorize this. Understand this as well, but memorize it. It is clearly written as part of your syllabus. Clearly as part of your syllabus. इसके अंदर कोई गलती की गुंजाइश नहीं है. The other three are clearly wrong. ठीक है. Refer to the syllabus contents to get a better understanding of what this means. I hope you guys are clear about it. Okay. Good. Okay. Got it. अच्छा, आगे चलते हैं. Okay, so the next question says how many atoms are there in 27 grams of water? So atoms are particles. It's essentially asking how many particles are there in 27 grams of water, right? And those particles happen to be atom in this case. Let's not go there. In order to find number of particles, what do we need to know first? We need to first know the number of moles, right? Remember? Number of moles. How can we find the number of moles? We know the mass. We know the MR from the periodic table. Let's find the moles. So the moles come out to be the mass over the MR. What is the mass? It's 27. What is the MR? 2 into 1 for hydrogens plus 16 for oxygen. It comes out to be 18. 27 over 18. What does 27 over 18 come out to be? What does 27 over 18 come out to be? 1.5. So 1.5 mole of water. This is the moles of water. These are the moles of water. Okay. And now the formula, moles is equal to number of particles into 6.02 into 10 to the power 23. By the way, this number right here is the Avogadro's constant. Right? So what do? We now have the moles. We know the Avogadro's constant. We want to find the number of particles. Now these are the moles of water. But what is H2O? What is H2O? Water exists as H2O, right? H2O. What is H2O? H2O is a molecule. Do you guys agree with me? H2O is a molecule. It's not an atom. It has 2 hydrogen atom and 1 oxygen atom. Yes, but it is a molecule, right? So these are moles of water. These will give us the number of molecules, not the number of atoms. Because water exists as molecules, right? That is the reason, no other reason. It can also give us the number of atoms only if something exists as atoms. H2O is a molecule itself. So number of molecules, this is going to give us. Now we know the moles, we know the Avogadro's constant. Let's calculate the number of molecules. Oh, essentially, I actually misplaced the formula. Beg your pardon. It's actually the other way around. It's the number of molecules is equal to the moles into 10 to the power of 23. Beg your pardon, that was a mistake on my part. Anyways, so now you have the moles, you're gonna get the number of molecules. Why did I write it like this? You're gonna get the number of molecules. So moles are 1.5. So it's gonna be 1.5 into 6.02 into 10 to the power of 23. Can anybody please calculate it for me? 1.5 into 6.02 into 10 to the power of 23. It gives me 9.03. It gives me 9.03 into 10 to the power of 23. I hope it makes sense. Yeah, 9.03 into 10 to the power 23. Now these are the number of water molecules, number of H2O. H2O. How many H2Os do you have? 9.03 into 10 to the power 23. इतने ज़्यादा H2O पढ़े. And how many atoms in one H2O? It's talking about number of atoms. right? If it had talked about the number of molecules, A would have been the answer, but it's not. Let me tell you, it's not. How many atoms are there in H2O? You have 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So total 3 atoms. So if one molecule has 3 atoms, how many atoms will have 2 molecules? How many atoms will 2 molecules have? 3 into 2, 6, right? If one molecule has 3 atoms, then these many molecules are gonna have multiply by 3 atoms. Isn't it so? You multiply this by 3 to get the number of atoms, right? That is exactly what we do. We multiply this by 3, and let me just calculate it for a moment, and you shall get the number of atoms. You shall get the number of atoms. Give me a moment. No, not always multiply by 3. इसके अंदर H2O में थे ही 3 atoms ना, that is why. So it is always multiply by 3. Yeah. So if you multiply it, I think the answer comes out to be. रुक जाओ. Let me multiply it myself. If I multiply it by 3, yeah, it comes out to be 2.7 into 10 to the power 24, which comes out to be C. बच्चों ये बात समझ आई? देखो हमेशा 3 से नहीं करते. वाटर मॉलिक्यूल के अंदर 3 एटम्स होते हैं, इसलिए 3 से कर रहे हो. किसी के अंदर 4 होते हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल C2H4 होता है ये, तो इसमें कितने हैं? 4 + 2 6, फिर आप 6 से मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं, राइट? सो इट डिपेंड्स, इट्स नॉट ऑलवेज लाइक दैट. यू हैव टू यूज योर ब्रेन्स. Good. We'll do till question number 20. उसके बाद we'll have a 5-minute break. अच्छा, a mixture of sodium hydrogen carbonate and sodium chloride is heated. Okay. The equation for the reaction that takes place when sodium hydrogen carbonate is heated is shown. So sodium hydrogen carbonate is heated and it decomposes into sodium carbonate, into carbon dioxide, into water. Now this is a tricky question. It's not an easy question. It is a tricky question. 80% of you are going to get it wrong, I'm pretty sure. But the 20% who are going to get it right are going to learn from what I'm going to say. And they're going to keep noting it down. So please keep noting it down. Sodium chloride is unchanged on heating. Okay, nothing happens to sodium chloride. So something has sodium hydrogen carbonate, this one, and sodium chloride. When you heat it, इसे कुछ नहीं होता, ये ऐसे ही रहता है. This one gets heated and broken down into these 3 guys right here. When 6 gram of the mixture is heated, now this 6 gram has sodium hydrogen carbonate as well as sodium carbonate. As well as sodium chloride. These two combined are 6 gram, right? The loss in mass is 1.5 gram. Okay, how does the loss in mass occur? Loss in mass means the mass of gases formed. Because obviously when gases form, they escape. And they cause the loss in mass. Which are the gases formed? Carbon dioxide and water vapor. These are the gases formed. The total loss in mass is 1.5 gram. So the total mass of carbon dioxide lost and water lost are 1.5. It's not just of water, no. It's not just of carbon dioxide, no. It's the total mass of both. So the total mass of both gases is 1.5 grams. Okay. What is the percentage by mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate in the mixture? Percentage by mass would mean mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate over total mass into 100%. We are given the total mass. The total mass is 6 gram. What is the mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate? How can we figure that out? We need to calculate it. Moles निकाल के, ठीक है? And then we will be able to get percentage by mass. Our now goal is to calculate the mass, the normal mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate. How do we know? We know the mass of these two combined is 1.5. So what are going to be the moles of these two combined? Because masses भी combined given है, तो moles भी combined निकालने पड़ेंगे. What is the total mass? 1.5. What is the total MR? So total MR is gonna be carbon is 12, 2 into 16 for these oxygens, 2 into 1 for the hydrogens plus 16 for this oxygen gives you 32 plus 12 plus 2 plus 16. It gives you 44, 46, 62. 62 is the MR, right? So the total mass is 1.5, the total MR is 62, the total moles of these two is going to be what? Moles is going to be number of moles equal to mass over the MR, 1.5 over 62. It gives you what? Let's actually calculate it. 1.5 over 62 gives you 0.024195 mole, right? Just to be safe, I'm writing a huge answer. Okay, so these are the number of moles of how many? The number of moles of the gases. What, and now we need to calculate, find the number of moles of this. What are the ratio? The gases are both 1. So the ratio of the gases is 1. What is the molar ratio of this? This is 2. So now let's apply the ratio. Let's apply the ratio. You have gases here and you have sodium hydrogen carbonate here. This is 2. These are 1. These are the number of moles, 0.241935. The number of moles of NaHCO3 is X. Let's cross multiply. So X comes out to be 2 multiplied by this guy right here. Let me calculate it. बच्चों समझ आ रही है? Hopefully आ रही हो. नहीं आ रही बीच में? You guys can stop me and ask me these questions because it's a very tricky question. 0.048387 mole. These are the number of moles of sodium hydrogen carbonate. Now you have the moles of sodium hydrogen carbonate. You want to calculate its mass. You already know its MR from the periodic table. Let's calculate the mass. So mass is going to be moles into MR. The moles are 0.048387 into the MR. What is the MR? The MR of sodium is 23 plus 1 for hydrogen plus 12 for carbon plus 3 into 16 is 48 for oxygen. Let's actually do it. You multiply this by 23 plus 12 plus 1 plus 48. It comes out to be 4.06 grams. This is the mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate. यहाँ तक बात क्लियर हुई है? सर वो मोल्स हमें 2 गैसेस के ढूंढने हैं, हमने 2 मोल्स हुए हैं. नहीं, 2 मोल्स नहीं है. Those are the total moles of those 2 gases. That won't be the question. You see, because उसने जब total mass दिया है ना, तो तब आपने इसको इकट्ठे ही लेना होता है और उस केस में वो इसकी मोलर रेशियो में डिफरेंस नहीं करेगा. एट योर लेवल ही वोंट डू दैट. इट इज अ बैड क्वेश्चन. यस हमजा, NaCl के मास को हम इसलिए कह रहे हैं बिकॉज NaCl वाज अनचेंज्ड ऑन हीटिंग. NaCl का मास एसेंशियली जो है ना, अब ये देखो, ये मास आया है किसका? सोडियम हाइड्रोजन कार्बोनेट का. टोटल मास ये था, तो इसमें से ये माइनस करोगे तो वो NaCl का मास है. बट वी डोंट नीड दैट मास because we're talking about the percentage by mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate, right? You are not concerned with that mass. Ignore that. I'll explain again. बच्चों देखो, गौर से सुनो. This is the last time I'm going to explain this question. You see, सोडियम हाइड्रोजन कार्बोनेट जब NaCl के साथ रिएक्ट करता है, हीट NaCl के साथ होता है और उस पर हीट किया जाता है, beg your pardon, when it's heated, so this guy converts into this. When 6 gram of the mixture is heated, that mixture is of NaCl and NaHCO3. The loss in mass is 1.5 gram. Loss in mass is always when gases are formed. So loss in mass 1.5 gram is the total mass of these 2 gases. Total mass. So अब इनका total mass पता है, इनका total MR भी पता है, तो इनके total moles आ गए. टोटल मोल्स ऑफ गैसेस क्या आए थे आपके पास? टोटल मोल्स ऑफ गैसेस आए थे दिस वन. अब इससे आप रेशियो निकाल के इसके मोल्स निकालते हो, राइट? मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 2 टू गेट दीज मोल्स. यू हैव दीज मोल्स, यू हैव इट्स MR, यू कैलकुलेट इट्स मास. व्हाई? बिकॉज दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट परसेंटेज बाय मास ऑफ सोडियम हाइड्रोजन कार्बोनेट. इसका मास आ जाता है फिर. ये देखो, इसका मास आ गया 4.06. अब 4.06 वाज मास ऑफ दिस, 6 इज द मास ऑफ दिस कंबाइंड विद NaCl. परसेंटेज बाय मास ऑफ दिस निकालना है. क्या होगा? इसका मास ओवर टोटल मास इंटू 100%. इसका मास क्या है? 4.06. टोटल मास क्या है? 6 मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 100 एंड यू गेट समथिंग लाइक 67.8 आई बिलीव. सो सी इज द आंसर. नहीं समझ आया दोबारा बता देता हूँ, कोई मसला नहीं है. पेपर पे कर लेना यार, ठीक है? Won't we count them as 2 or 2? No, Arkham, no. You'll count it as 1 because देखो, जब आप मास को भी एज 1 काउंट कर रहे हो, दोनों को अलग नहीं ट्रीट कर रहे. जब आप MR भी एज 1 काउंट कर रहे हो, दोनों को अलग ट्रीट नहीं कर रहे. जब आप मोल्स भी दोनों के आपने इकट्ठे निकाले, तो मोलर रेशियो भी तो इकट्ठे निकालो ना. हाँ, नाउ यू कैन आस्क, ओके सर, व्हाट इफ दिस वाज 1 एंड दिस वाज 2? व्हाट इन दैट केस? यू विल नॉट बी गिवन सच अ केस एट दिस लेवल. यू आर नॉट गिवन इन द हिस्ट्री. जितने पास पेपर्स मैंने देखे ऐसे नहीं आया, आपको नहीं आएगा. सो डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. बट द फैक्ट कि आपने मास इकट्ठे किया, आपने MR इकट्ठे किया, आपने मोल्स इकट्ठे किए, तो मोलर रेशियो को भी एक ही कंसिडर करना है. ठीक है? एक ही कंसिडर करोगे. ओके इंशाल्लाह. हमजा प्रैक्टिस ज़्यादा करोगे तो समझ आ जाएगा ऐसे पैटर्न्स को. अब देखो, दिस वाज अ हार्ड क्वेश्चन. ये कर लिया है ना, तो ऐसा क्वेश्चन दोबारा आएगा, कर लोगे. अंडरस्टूड? क्लियर अप टिल नाउ बच्चों? इज दिस क्लियर? थिंग्स आर मेकिंग सम सेंस टू यू? Are things making some sort of sense? Repeat, इसको दोबारा देख लेना. When I provide you guys the recording, when it will be uploaded on YouTube, इसे दोबारा देख लेना. ठीक है? अच्छा, आगे आ जाओ. Electrolysis is used to plate a metal statue with silver. The statue is an electrode in a suitable electrolyte. Which row is correct in identifying the statue and the electrolyte? Ab dekho, you have a statue. This one is a statue, for example, very bad statue, and you need to plate it with silver. So it should have silver. This yellow thingy should be silver, right? This should be silver. So whenever you have to do this, you have to make sure the electrolyte is an aqueous salt of the plating metal, which is silver. So silver ka hi aqueous salt hona chahiye. It should be an aqueous salt of silver. All these are apparently aqueous salt of silver, but there is a problem. Is silver chloride soluble in water? I don't think so, because I remember telling you guys all chlorides are soluble, except for silver, mercury and lead, right? SML कहता था मैं इनको, silver, mercury and lead. So silver chloride is not soluble. Silver chloride cannot be aqueous, it is only solid. So silver chloride cannot be the answer, it has to be either B or D. Clear? And then जिस चीज के ऊपर आप सिल्वर को कराना चाह रहे होते हो वो चीज आप कैथोड पे लगाते हो, बिकॉज एनोड पे यू विल अप्लाई प्योर सिल्वर, कैथोड पे यू विल अप्लाई द स्टैचू, एंड देन एनोड सिल्वर विल गेट ब्रोकन डाउन, ट्रैवल थ्रू द इलेक्ट्रोलाइट एंड गेट अटैच्ड टू इट लाइक दिस. सो कैथोड पे वो स्टैचू होना चाहिए जिसके ऊपर सिल्वर आना है, और सिल्वर शुड बी एट द एनोड. याद रखो, प्योरिफिकेशन ऑफ कॉपर वाला एग्जांपल याद रखो. द प्योर कॉपर वाज एट द एनोड. The impure copper was at the anode, right? So just like that, the statue is going to be at the cathode. Your answer is going to be B. Is this clear? If this is not clear, then that means your electrolysis concepts are very bad. Muhammad, it cannot be chloride because the electrolyte must be a liquid, aqueous, right? It must be aqueous. Silver chloride cannot be aqueous. Why? Because silver chloride is insoluble. Remember the salts table? I told you all chlorides are soluble except silver chloride, mercury chloride and lead chloride. I asked you to remember this using SML, silver, mercury, lead, small, medium, large. Very easy way to remember things. So if it's not soluble, it cannot be aqueous, and if it cannot be aqueous, it cannot be a suitable electrolyte, because electrolyte has to be liquid or aqueous. It cannot be a solid, not at all. Right? Hopefully things are making some sort of sense to you. Which row is correct? The purpose of hydrogen oxygen fuel cell is to produce electrical energy. Hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, this is part of your syllabus. It produces electricity, and at the same time the only byproduct is water. Hydrogen and oxygen are reacting together, right? Hydrogen kabhi product nahi ho sakti. Water is the only product, right? And it produces electrical energy. This is something you need to remember straight out of your notes. सिंपल, इसमें तो कोई रॉकेट साइंस ही नहीं है ना. ठीक है जी. होपफुली थिंग्स आर मेकिंग सम सेंस टू यू नाउ. It's fine. We trust you, madam. We trust you. I don't know मेरा गला इतना क्यों सूखा हुआ यार. Anyways. Clear up till now, बच्चों? Things are making some sort of sense. जो बच्चे भी आज क्लास नहीं ले रहे, I hope कि आगे वो हों क्लासेस में. But yeah, good so far. ठीक है, good. Okay, I won't, don't worry. Okay. Some bond energy data is given in the table. This is the table with bond energies. O single bond O is this, O double bond O is this, OH is this, NH is this, etc. Hydrazine N2H4 reacts with oxygen as shown. The value for enthalpy change delta H of the reaction is calculated by selecting and using data from the table. What is the value of delta H? So the value of delta H is always going to be, how is the value of delta H going to be? It is always and always going to be the energy absorbed minus energy released. And who absorbs energy? It is the reactants. So energy absorbed by reactants minus energy released by products, right? So what do? Firstly, you calculate energy absorbed by reactants, and then you calculate energy released by products, subtract them and you get delta H. Subtract them and you will get delta H. So energy absorbed by the reactant is going to be which of these are the reactants? These two are reactants, this is the product. पहले reactant पे आते हैं. इसके जैसे उसने बॉन्ड शो किए हुए ना, O के बॉन्ड्स भी शो करो. How many bonds does O2 have? O2 exists as O double bond O. We already know that. Let's write it here. It exists as O double bond O, not O single bond. It exists as O double bond O. Are you right? Are you understanding this? O double bond O. अच्छा, अब ये आपके पास इसकी बॉन्ड है, ये बॉन्ड्स है. अब इनकी बॉन्ड एनर्जीज निकालनी है. What is the bond energy of O double bond O? Read from the table 496. So this is 496. 496 यहाँ पे कर लेते हैं. Plus n की कितनी है? n की. How many n bonds? Only one. N single bond n is 160. So let's add 160 here. How many NH bonds? 1 NH bond, 2 NH bonds, 3 NH bond, 4th NH bond, right? And what is the bond energy of this? NH bond energy is 390. So 390 into 4. This is your total energy absorbed. Let's actually calculate it. 496 plus 160 plus 390 into 4. This is 2216. So 2216 kilojoule per mole is the bond energy absorbed. It is the bond energy absorbed by the reactants. ठीक है. Same way, अब उसके bonds भी निकालोगे और फिर इनकी bond energies add करोगे. अभी देख लेते हैं. N2 exists as N triple bond N. How do I know? Because N is in group 5. Group 5 means 5 valence electrons. To stable it needs to go to 8. 5 से 8 जाने के लिए इसे 3 bonds बनाने पड़ेंगे. Hence it has triple bond. याद रखना है, याद रखना है. ठीक है, ये बहुत basic knowledge है. And double bond. So now, if I were to do it, H2O कैसा होता है? H2O is something like this. We already know that, right? And how many H2O? You have 2, so you will write 2 before it. 2 H2O plus N2, and N2 exists as N triple bond, right? ये है. अब इनकी bond energies निकालो. How many OH bonds here? How many OH bonds here? So you have 1 and you have 2. So you have 2 OH bonds. What is the bond energy of the OH bond? The OH bond energy is 460. So you multiply 460 and you multiply by 2 because you have 2 of these. So you multiply this with 2. And now N triple bond N. What is the bond energy of N triple bond N? It is 944. So you add this to this and you shall get your answer. 460 into 2, which comes out to be, I believe, 920. 920 plus 944, 1864. 1864 kilojoules per mole. This is the energy released. Now delta H is the energy absorbed minus energy released. So delta H is going to be 2216 minus 1864, and you shall get your answer to be plus 352. Plus 352 kilojoule per mole. And this comes out to be what? The option number D. Clear? Long question but easy question. हाँ मैंने 4 ही किया सारा. मैंने actually 4 ही किया उसको. Have I not done that? Oh, 460 into 4. Yeah, you're right. Oh, my bad. Yes, you're right. Okay, so basically OH bonds, OH1, OH2, and you have 2 and you have 2 more. So 2 into 2, you have 4 OH bonds. So multiply 4 with 460 because 460 is for 1 OH bond, right? So instead of 2, I'll have to multiply it by 4. Or let's say multiply it by 2 again. ऐसे लिख लेते हैं इसको. ठीक है? Beg your pardon. Thank you so much, Zara. Thank you so much. Okay, so 4 into 460 plus 944. Now this comes out to be, yeah, now it makes a lot more sense. 2784. And now the energy absorbed 2216 minus energy released, which is 2784. It comes out to be 2216 minus 2784 minus 5. I'm gonna write it again either way. So minus 568. Minus 568 kilojoule per mole. This comes out to be the answer. Thank you, Zara. Thank you for correcting and pointing it out. समझ आ गया? सलमान क्या पूछ रहा है? 496 बच्चे क्वेश्चन में गिवन है, सब क्वेश्चन में गिवन है. ये देखो क्वेश्चन में गिवन है ना, ये सारी बॉन्ड एनर्जीज गिवन है. ये बॉन्ड है, ये बॉन्ड है, ये बॉन्ड है, ये these all are the bond. You add all the bond energies of the reactants एक तरफ, all the bond energies of the products एक तरफ, फिर reactant में से product को माइनस करते हो, reactant और product वाली को माइनस करते हो तो आपके पास डेल्टा एच आ जाता है. सिंपल, cool, easy. You'll practice more of these to get the hang of it. It's not that hard. It's just lengthy. It's not that hard. It's just lengthy. Cool. Okay, another question, another conceptual question. The rate of reaction between calcium carbonate and dilute hydrochloric acid is measured in 3 separate experiments. Okay. So, calcium carbonate would react with HCl, cotton wool. Why? Because carbonate reacting with acid would produce a carbon dioxide, salt and water. The carbon dioxide will release and escape this. So, carbon dioxide ऐसे जाके escape हो जाएगी. CO2 is getting escaped. It is escaping. So, loss in mass होगा. Mass इसका गिरेगा. Why? Because CO2 is escaping. तीनों के अंदर mass गिर रहा है. Okay. Experiment 1, calcium carbonate is powdered. Excess of HCl is used. What does this mean? Excess means reaction will complete. A lot of HCl. So reaction will definitely go to completion. Calcium carbonate will be all used up. Okay. Powdered means it has a large surface area. Large surface area. And large surface area means more rate of reaction. Okay. Experiment 2, calcium carbonate is in lumps and excess of HCl is used. Again, excess means reaction will complete, but lumps means less surface area. This is less surface area. L for lumps, L for less surface area, and hence it will have less rate of reaction. Right? Less rate of reaction. Okay. Experiment 3, calcium carbonate is in lumps. Again, less rate of reaction. Less rate of reaction. Less hydrochloric acid is used and the calcium carbonate is in excess. Now, HCl used is less. Right? Now, HCl is the limiting reactant. Now, this is something you need to be able to understand. Less acid means acid is the limiting reactant. It means less carbon dioxide will be produced overall, right? Less carbon dioxide will be produced, so the loss in mass will be less. So that means less CO2 produced, hence loss in mass is going to be less. Loss in mass is going to be less. ठीक हो गया. अच्छा, the experiments, the results of these experiment is shown. Which statement is correct? Okay. So since this has a large surface area, more rate of reaction, experiment 1 should have the highest rate of reaction. Highest rate of reaction should be most gradient, the most steeper gradient, the value of the gradient should be the highest. This is the steepest gradient. Z is the steepest gradient, right? So Z must be experiment 1. Z must be experiment 1. Is this clear up till now? Now, experiment 2 must be Y. Experiment 2 must be Y. Why exactly is that? Now, both of these use lumps, but in this case, as I told you, in experiment 3, there will be less loss of mass. As you can see, in experiment 3, it has very less loss of mass. In experiment 2, however, it has a huge loss of mass, right? So, X should be what? X should be experiment 3. And Y should be experiment 2. Let's see which option is now correct. Experiment 1 is shown by curve X, wrong. Experiment 1 is shown by curve Y, wrong. Experiment 2 is shown by curve Y, yes, seems to be correct. Experiment 3 is shown by curve Z, no, it is experiment 1. Clear up till now? Not really a hard question. Not really a hard question, in all honesty. Easy question. ठीक है? Makes a lot of sense. Does this make sense now? I have already explained. हाँ, इस तरह से तो पेपर बहुत लेट होगा. रिकॉर्डिंग में से रिवाइंड करके देख लेना प्लीज. Being repeated. Yes, it does repeat. It does repeat quite a lot. Yeah, exactly. I need to be a little faster because I'm just trying to make sense because it's the first class. I just want to see कि किसको कितना आता है. You know, and based on that, I set the tone of my class. I set up the pace. तो उससे मुझे अंदाजा हो जाता है. Right now, I'm seeing we're on the same frequency. I can even be a little faster, right? So I'll try to be faster now. Done. Easy. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. Equation shows the reversible reaction between nitrogen and oxygen to form ammonia. This is nitrogen. This is hydrogen. Sorry, not oxygen. It is hydrogen. Forming ammonia. Okay. Reversible reaction exothermic. Which statement is correct when the temperature is increased? The activation energy increases. No. Activation energy is only increased when you add a catalyst. Temperature का तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता. Equilibrium shifts to form more ammonia. It says equilibrium shifts to the right. Let's see. If it's an exothermic reaction, means heat is going to be on the product side. If you increase the temperature, the equilibrium needs to be shifted to the left side. It says it shifts to the right side. So this is wrong. The rate of forward reaction decreases. No. The rate of both forward and backward reaction increases because as temperature increases, rate of reaction increases. Does not matter if it's forward or backward. No. This is also wrong. Rate at which ammonia decomposes increases. It means ammonia is decomposing in the backward reaction. This is the backward reaction, decomposition of ammonia. It means the backward reaction, the rate of backward reaction is increasing. Yes, it is. The rate of forward reaction is also increasing. अगर यहाँ पे rate of decomposition की जगह ये लिखता है ना the rate at which ammonia is forming is increasing, that would have also been correct because rate forward का भी increase होता है, backward का भी equally, right? So the rate at which ammonia decomposes increases means rate of backward reaction increases. Hence D is the only correct option. D is the only correct option. Which statement is correct? Ethanoic acid is a weak acid because when it is added to excess alkali, not all of ethanoic acid reacts. Okay, now when is an acid classified as weak or when is an acid classified as strong? It depends on its dissociation into its ions, how partially or how fully it ionizes. So we have to look out for the option where it says ethanoic acid does not fully ionizes. Okay, it says the B option says ethanoic acid is weaker than sulfuric acid because a smaller proportion of its molecules associated in aqueous solution. Yes, यही तो मतलब होता है partial dissociation का. For example, ethanoic acid के, this is ethanoic acid by the way, इसके for example let's say you have 10 molecules and out of those 10 only 6 decompose into CH3, COO minus and H plus, only 6, the rest 4 does not. This is partial dissociation. If you compare it to sulfuric acid, so H2SO4 for example, if you have 10 molecules of H2SO4, maybe 9 of them or maybe even 10 of them would dissociate. That makes this strong and that makes this weak. So B is essentially the correct option. We don't even need to read the next ones. Since we're short on time, I would rather not read. अगर कोई issues हैं तो मेरे से पूछने का. Some properties of a solid oxide are listed. Solid oxide are listed. It reacts with dilute sulfuric acid, giving a salt and water. Salt and water reacting with acid, it must be a base. It must be a base, right? So it must be a metal oxide. If it's a base, basic oxides are those which are metals oxides. Metal oxides. So it cannot be phosphorus oxide. Phosphorus oxide तो आप option से ही निकाल दो. It is insoluble in water. It is insoluble in water. Okay. It reacts with aqueous sodium hydroxide. Now this is a very, very, very brilliant question. I want you guys to try and make sense of this question. What do you guys think is going to be the answer? What do you guys think is going to be the answer? What do you guys think is going to be the answer? Let me reply to a message. Guys, give me a moment. Okay. So let's come back to this question. Okay, so we established it must be a metal oxide because it's a basic oxide. Right? It says it is insoluble in water. We know group 1 oxides are soluble in water. Even group 2 can be soluble in water. So let's eliminate the option of sodium as well because it's in group 1. Okay, eliminated this as well based on this. Third one says it reacts with sodium hydroxide aqueous. Sodium hydroxide क्या है? Sodium hydroxide is an alkali. It is a base. And if we establish it is a basic oxide, it can react with acid as well. And in this one it says it is reacting with a base as well. So what is the oxide that reacts with an acid as well as a base? Those oxides are known as amphoteric. Those oxides are known as amphoteric, right? And amphoteric oxide हमारे पास syllabus में examples zinc oxide की है, aluminum oxide की है. Do we see any of these options? Yes, we see aluminum oxide here. Bingo, A is going to be the answer. Simple as that. Not even a question. Two compounds are dissolved separately in water. When the two solutions are mixed, there is no observable change. There is no observable change. What are the two compounds? Okay. So no observable change should mean no precipitate being formed. Why do I know this? If it says two compounds are dissolved in water, it means it will form a solution. ठीक है, ये दो compounds करके इसने एक solution बना दिया, second वाले ने एक solution बना दिया. And when these two solutions are mixed, there is no change, which means there should be no PPT. Solution वैसे का वैसा ही रहे. So we'll see which of these two forms a salt that is also soluble in water because वही solution बनाएगा, right? तो हमने ये देखना है कि ये जो दो salts हैं soluble होने चाहिए और ये क्या बनाते हैं? Do they make a soluble salt? If they make a soluble salt, there is no change. If they make an insoluble salt, there is a change. ठीक है, let's see. So barium nitrate plus sodium chloride. This is a displacement, double displacement reaction. Barium and sodium will displace each other, and it will now form barium chloride. Barium chloride. And it will form sodium nitrate. Is sodium nitrate soluble in water? Yes, all nitrates are soluble. Is barium chloride soluble in water? Yes, all chlorides are soluble except silver, mercury, and lead. So A can definitely be the answer. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Sodium chloride and lead nitrate. What will this form? Lead and sodium will switch places. So now this is going to be barium chloride again, which is soluble. Okay, aqueous. It is also aqueous. This is also aqueous. And lead nitrate will now become lead chloride. Is lead chloride soluble? Is lead chloride soluble, bachcho? It is not. I told you all chlorides are soluble except silver, mercury, and lead. Lead is not soluble. So this will have an observable change. This cannot be the answer. Sodium sulfate and barium chloride will form barium sulfate and sodium chloride. Now barium sulfate is insoluble. It will also form a PPT. Hence this is also not the answer. Lead chloride and sodium sulfate, again lead sulfate will form. All sulfates are soluble except calcium, barium, and lead. So lead sulfate is also insoluble. Another solid PPT formed. So it is also not the answer. The only correct answer is A. This is a little tricky. This one was a little tricky. 19 again. I'll explain it again. Don't worry. Oh, essentially beg your pardon. It should be lead chloride and sodium nitrate. Lead chloride and sodium nitrate. Yeah. So it should be lead chloride. Okay. Lead chloride is lead chloride तो already लिखा हुआ है. Sodium nitrate लिखना है यहाँ पे. Beg your pardon. It should be sodium nitrate. अच्छा, in case you don't get it, देखो बच्चों, जब दो सॉल्युबल चीजें, दो सॉल्युबल एक्वस सॉल्यूशंस आपस में रिएक्ट करके भी एक चीज सॉल्युबल बनाए तो देयर इज नो ऑब्जर्वेबल चेंज, राइट? मतलब you mix water. I have these two bottles of water. If both of these have water, I mix water into this. There is no observable change because I added water to water, right? But for example, if you have two soluble substances, two soluble solution, two aqueous solution, and you add them and you see a precipitate being formed, a solid being deposited, that is an observable change. उसने कहा नो ऑब्जर्वेबल चेंज, इसका मतलब है प्रेसिपिटेट नहीं बनना चाहिए. देयर शुड बी नो पीपीटी. सो हमने देखा क्या बनता है. सोडियम क्लोराइड और बेरियम नाइट्रेट रिएक्ट करके बेरियम क्लोराइड और सोडियम नाइट्रेट बनते हैं. बेरियम क्लोराइड इज ऑल्सो सॉल्युबल, सोडियम नाइट्रेट इज ऑल्सो सॉल्युबल. ये दोनों भी सॉल्युबल से, तो देयर वाज नो ऑब्जर्वेबल चेंज. ए इज करेक्ट. इसके अंदर देखो, सोडियम क्लोराइड एक्वस, लेड नाइट्रेट एक्वस, बट व्हेन यू ऐड देम इट फॉर्म्स लेड क्लोराइड व्हिच इज सॉलिड, व्हिच विल फॉर्म अ पीपीटी. हाउ डू आई नो? बिकॉज ऑल क्लोराइड आर सॉल्युबल एक्सेप्ट सिल्वर, मर्करी, लेड. लेड क्लोराइड इज इनसॉल्युबल. Hence this is an observable change. आपने दो चीजों को मिक्स किया and you see a solid, you see a precipitate. This is an observable change you can see with your naked eye. Sodium sulfate and barium chloride. So chloride and sulfate. Now barium sulfate will form, and barium sulfate, mind you, is also insoluble. It will form a PPT. Same goes for this. Lead sulfate and sodium chloride will be the product. Lead sulfate is what? It is also insoluble. It will form a PPT. Hence observable change. So only one जिसमें observable change नहीं है, soluble solution ही बन रहा है, वो A है. ठीक है? Okay. 17th MCQ. I mean, this statement is true. H2SO4 is going to produce like this, 2H plus and SO4 2 minus. Yes, but ये नहीं बताता कि स्ट्रॉन्ग है या वीक है. स्ट्रॉन्ग या वीक क्या है ये बताते कि अगर 10 सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड के मॉलिक्यूल्स हैं तो उसमें से 10 के 10 H प्लस दें, इससे पता चलता है स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड होने का. दिस स्टेटमेंट इज ट्रू बट दिस डज नॉट टेल इफ इट इज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड और नॉट. ठीक है? अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं कहूँ कि अब्दुर्रहमान जो है हमारा स्टूडेंट, अब्दुर्रहमान 10 बर्गर खाता है. ठीक है, वो खाता है 10 बर्गर. मैं कहूँ अब्दुर्रहमान स्मार्ट भी बहुत है, बिल्कुल वो है स्मार्ट. लेकिन मैं कहूँ ही इज स्मार्ट बिकॉज ही ईट्स 10 बर्गर्स. नो, ही इज नॉट स्मार्ट बिकॉज ही ईट्स 10 बर्गर्स. ही स्मार्ट बिकॉज ही स्टडीज, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट? मतलब दोनों चीज़ें ट्रू हैं बट उनका आपस में ताल्लुक नहीं है कोई. दैट्स व्हाट दिस ऑप्शन वाज, इफ आई हैव टू एक्सप्लेन इट. ठीक है? ठीक है ना? अच्छा, part of the periodic table is shown. W, X, Y, Z are not the correct symbol of the elements. Which statement is correct? Compound formed between X and W has covalent bonds. No, it cannot have covalent bond. Why? Because X is from group 1. It will form a +1 positive one, a positive molecule. This will form a -2 negative molecule. So, ion, not molecule, ion. I beg your pardon. This is going to form a +1 cation. This is going to form a -2 anion, and anion and cation react to form an ionic compound. They don't have covalent bonds, so this is wrong. W and Y, what is W? W and Y are both gases at RTP that contain covalent bonds. Oh, that is a very, very tempting offer. That is a very, very tempting option, right? How exactly? Because W, this one essentially is group 6. Group 6 के top पे क्या है? I believe it's oxygen. Oxygen is a gas at RTP, yes. Why? And this must be chlorine or something. Fluorine. I think this is chlorine. So chlorine is a gas as well, right? Both of these are gases and both of these have covalent. Yes, Cl2 means ClCl, covalent bonds. O2 means OO, covalent bonds, right? So B seems to be correct in my eyes. Let's see the other options as well. After this, we'll have a short little break. X and Y react together more vigorously than Z and Y at RTP. So X and Y react together more vigorously than Z and Y and RTP. X and Y. No, not really. There is nothing there to suggest it. X and Z both have 2 outer shell electrons. No, X must have 8 outer shell electrons. Z must have 8 outer shell electrons. They cannot have 2 outer shell electrons. If they're stable, they must have 8. Varna, because this is in group 1. अगर atoms की बात कर रहे हो तो this is in group 1. It must have 1 valence shell electron. The group number is equal to the number of valence shell electron. Group 1 means 1 valence shell electron. Hence this is wrong. 8 तो खैर तब होते जब ions की बात होगी. So this is wrong as well. B is the only correct option. ठीक है जी, makes complete sense. ऑफ करो, पढ़ लो यार. Anyways, is this clear? Zara, I would recommend join again because I think it's cool on my side. Cool, bacho, cool. Yeah, it is 8:36. Let's have a 4-minute break. We'll be back at 8:40 sharp, and I see you on the other side, inshallah. Okay, so we're back. चलो आगे चलते हैं. Hopefully screen visible है. अभी तक समझ नहीं आया येलो सॉलिड क्या था. मैंने ग्रुप में एक्सप्लेन किया था वैसे. आई डोंट रिमेंबर माई सेल्फ अब कि वो क्या था, बट उस टाइम मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया था. अच्छा जी, सो द ग्रुप 1 मेटल्स लिथियम, सोडियम एंड पोटेशियम शो ट्रेंड्स इन देयर मेल्टिंग पॉइंट्स एंड इन देयर रिएक्शंस विद वाटर. ओके, what is the trend? So before we move on to the question, it's talking about melting points and reaction with water. So group 1, as you go down the group, their melting point decreases and their reactions with water, they react more vigorously down the group. They become more vigorous and more violent in their reaction. ठीक है, तो vigorous reactions increase down the group. So more vigorous down the group. More vigorous down the group. So the melting point should decrease and the reaction with water should become more vigorous. B. This is something you need to memorize. This is something you need to just cram, and if you have not done the periodic table in metals chapter well enough, you will struggle with this. So chlorine gas is bubbled in separate samples of aqueous potassium iodide and potassium bromide. In which solution is there a color change? Color change वहीं होगा जहाँ reaction होगा. So potassium iodide reacting with chlorine, you'll have to see, can chlorine displace iodine? It can if it is above. So it is fluorine, chlorine, iodine, fluorine, bromine and iodine. So can chlorine displace iodine? Yes, because it is above in the reactivity series, above in group 7. So chlorine will displace, hence color change hoga. So color change will happen. What about aqueous potassium bromide? So will chlorine replace the bromide? Yes, it will, because again it is above bromide as well. Another color change is possible, right? So this A should be the only correct option where both the color changes are possible. Which statement about element of group 8 of the periodic table is correct? Going down the group, the number of electrons in the atom increases by 8 for each noble gas. Does it though? अभी जाके देख लेते हैं. सारी options पढ़ते हैं, like चीजें खुद सेंस बनाने लग जाएंगी. Going down the group, the number of electrons in the outer shell increases by 8 for each. Isn't the two the same? Okay. In the outer shell increase by 8 for each noble gas. Not really, because पहले वाला हीलियम है, उसके ऊपर उस पे 2 होते हैं. अभी जाके देखते हैं, रुको मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ. If you look at this, you see first one is helium, next one is neon, next one is argon, next one is let's say krypton, right? So अब क्या इनमें डिफरेंस 8 का आ रहा है? 2 से 10 8 का डिफरेंस है. ओके, 10 से 18 8 का डिफरेंस है. ओके, 18 से 36 तो 18 का डिफरेंस है. सो 8 का डिफरेंस तो नहीं आ रहा. वैलेंस शेल देख लो, इसके वैलेंस शेल में 2 है, इसके वैलेंस शेल में 8 है, इसके वैलेंस शेल में 8 है. तो इसमें तो डिफरेंस 6 का है, वो कह रहा है 8 का है. तो ए और बी तो ऐसे ही गलत हो गए. ठीक है, फिर सी में वो कहता है, इट सेज इन द सी ऑप्शन It says in the C option that number of electrons in the outer shell is the same for each noble gas. No, helium में अभी 2 थे, अभी हमने देखा helium के outer shell में 2 हैं, but उससे नीचे वाले के outer shell में 8 हैं. So this is wrong as well. Right, this is wrong as well. The D option says outer shell of each noble gas is fully occupied by electrons. Yes, helium में 2 ही आ सकते हैं, वो fully occupied है, stable है. Neon में 8 ही आ सकते हैं, वो fully occupied है, stable है. So D is the correct option, not C. Is this clear? Is this clear? Which statement is correct? Aluminum is used in food containers because it's resistant to corrosion. Yes. Aluminum foil, yes, that is the reason it's used. Why are the other statements wrong? Aluminum is used in the manufacture of aircraft because of its low ductility. No, it's essentially used because of its less density, not low ductility. Copper is used in electric wiring because of its high density. No, it's used because it's a good electrical conductor. Copper is used in manufacture of overhead electrical cables because it forms an unreactive oxide layer. No, that is what aluminum does, not copper. And also copper is used in electrical cables because it is a good conductor of electricity, not because of these reasons. So B, C, D are wrong. A is correct. Which elements are the major constituents of brass? Brass is an alloy. Alloy, it means mixture of two elements, and brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. Something you need to remember. Copper and zinc, C. Copper and zinc, C. Diagram shows two methods in which metal X is used to prevent the rusting of iron. Okay, so iron, and you have a block of metal X, iron, and you have a coating of metal X. A student suggests that metal X must be less reactive than iron. The student is insane, because if it has to protect iron, it should be more reactive. इसी तो कहते हैं sacrificial protection. It is more reactive, it reacts and saves iron. It sacrifices itself. So less reactive वाली बात तो गलत है, ये तो गलत है. C और D तो must be गलत. Less reactive तो हो ही नहीं सकता. And must have a lower proton number than iron. Okay. Reactivity means, now this is an important concept, guys. Maybe you guys don't know. Reactivity means the tendency to lose electrons. The tendency to lose electron. Lose कौन करेगा? जिसके इलेक्ट्रॉन ज़्यादा होंगे, राइट? जिसके इलेक्ट्रॉन ज़्यादा है वही लूज़ करेगा ना. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर उसके आउटर शेल में 2 हैं और उससे पिछले शेल में 8 है, तो ये लूज़ कर देगा बिकॉज 2 एक्स्ट्रा आ गए इस पर. पॉजिटिव बनना है इसको. So tendency to lose electrons. Lower proton number means lower electron number, not proton, lower electron number in this case. Should X have a lower electron number? No. Why? Because lower electron number है तो वो इलेक्ट्रॉन लूज नहीं करना चाहेगा, उसके पास ऑलरेडी कम है. बट अगर उसके पास इलेक्ट्रॉन ज़्यादा है, if it has a higher electron number, it would want to lose those electrons. It would want to lose those electrons. So tendency to lose electrons should increase. That is why it should be more reactive. And how can it increase? If it has a higher electron or proton number, not lower. So this is also a wrong suggestion. The student is very doesn't study at all. That student is pretty much insane. Aluminum is extracted from molten aluminum oxide by electrolysis. Which material is used for the electrodes and the industrial extraction? When aluminum is extracted, we use carbon electrodes. Simply carbon electrodes. Is this clear up till now? Muhammad Khan, I wish you knew what Maran's teacher actually says to her. I wish you knew. How ironic is it? How ironic is it? So what if in paper G? What if in paper what? Why not PT 7? Because thing is, aluminum oxide की जो industrial extraction होती है उसके अंदर आप carbon electron ही use करते हो. आप carbon electron ही use करते हो उसके अंदर. This is something you have learned, right? You don't know. This is a one particular example, ठीक है? और याद है इसके अंदर कार्बन इलेक्ट्रोड्स के साथ फिर ऑक्सीजन रिएक्ट करता था, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड बनाता था, एंड वी हैड टू रिप्लेस द कार्बन इलेक्ट्रोड्स अगेन एंड अगेन. ये वो सीन है. कोई बात नहीं हादी. आई रिमेंबर इन माई बायोलॉजी ओ लेवल पेपर आई हैड 4 कंसेक्यूटिव ऑप्शंस ऑफ सी और 5 एंड ऑल ऑफ दोज वर सी. आई गॉट ऑल ऑफ दोज करेक्ट अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. तो वो बैक टू बैक हो जाते हैं, कोई मसले की बात नहीं है. Literally got with अच्छा बस it possible or did I do the question wrong? It is very possible, Hadi. Chill. Which substance is used to remove odors in the treatment of domestic water supply? You see, to remove bad tastes and odors we use carbon. अब देखो मेरी बात सुनो हादी, आप कह रहे हो कि ऑप्शन सेम हो तो क्या वो चीज़ गलत होती है? नहीं, मेरी बात सुनो. लिसन टू मी नाउ. ऑप्शन सेम पे आप ये बात कर रहे हो, बट इन दो में ऑप्शन मतलब ऑप्शन नंबर क्या, दोनों का आंसर ही कार्बन है. इस पे तो सबसे ज़्यादा शक होना चाहिए कि ओ दिस मस्ट बी रॉन्ग, बट इट्स नॉट. गो एंड सी द मार्किंग स्कीम. प्रिटी श्योर इट्स कार्बन एंड कार्बन इन बोथ. दैट्स हाउ इट कैन बी. 100% इट कैन बी दैट. कोई मसले की बात नहीं है. अभी आपने क्वेश्चन किया, अभी यू गॉट द आंसर, राइट? गुड है, गुड है, गुड है, गुड है. Carbon dioxide, methane, and oxygen are gases involved in the carbon cycle. Which of these gases cause global warming? Global warming are caused by greenhouse gases. We know of only two greenhouse gases. One is methane, the other is carbon dioxide. So it should be methane and carbon dioxide. B is the only correct option. How many structural isomers are there with the molecular formula C4H9Cl? How many structural isomers? काश मल्टी के लेता आराम से रीडिंग. आजकल तो इधर भी हो रही है हमजा, जिस तरह के पेपर्स, खैर छोड़ो, आजकल तो इधर भी हो जाती है, अल्लाह माफ़ करे. ओके, दैट इज़ इनसेन, दैट एक्चुअली इज इनसेन. अच्छा बच्चों बच्चों बच्चों, थोड़े से क्वेश्चन रह गए, प्लीज़ प्लीज़ प्लीज़. हाउ मेनी स्ट्रक्चरल आइसोमर्स आर देयर विद द मोलेक्युलर फार्मूला C4H9 and Cl? C4H9 and Cl. How many? How many? How many? So let's actually see. Let's actually see. So C4H9 and Cl. How many structural formulas? So structural formulas. The first one can be where Cl is with this carbon. The second one can be when Cl is with this carbon. दो तो ये हो गए, ठीक है जी. दो तो ये हो गए, ठीक है. एक के अंदर Cl इसमें, एक के इसमें. अगर इसमें होगा, इनमें नहीं होगा, तो obviously this is also the second carbon having Cl. This is the same thing as this one, right? So two isomers like this. बच्चों ये क्वेश्चन समझ आ रहा है या नहीं? बिकॉज दिस इज़ अ वेरी ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन. अगर इसमें टाइम लगना है तो मैं समझा देता हूँ, मसले की बात नहीं है. थोड़ा सा टाइम टेकिंग क्वेश्चन है, थोड़ा सा टाइम टेकिंग क्वेश्चन. नहीं समझ आ रहा तो मुझे बता दो, आई कैन एक्सप्लेन इट. तो a little time taking question. समझा दें. ओके 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 ज़रा ज़रा कर देते हैं, ठीक है. अच्छा देखो बच्चों, स्ट्रक्चरल आइसोमर्स हो सकते हैं दो तरह के. फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू हैव C4 एंड दिस इज अ ट्रायल एंड एरर सॉर्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन. इसे करना ही पड़ेगा. हो सकता है पहले कार्बन पे मैंने Cl लगाया, बाकी सब पे मैंने हाइड्रोजन लगाया. दिस इज वन आइसोमर, दिस इज वन आइसोमर. ओके कूल, वन आइसोमर. व्हाट कैन बी अनदर आइसोमर? अनदर आइसोमर कैन बी कि मैंने इस वाले कार्बन पे क्लोरीन लगाया, इस पे नहीं लगाया. सो नाउ सेकंड कार्बन हैज क्लोरीन. दिस इज द सेकंड आइसोमर. टू आइसोमर्स डन. ओके. कैन आई ड्रॉ अ थर्ड आइसोमर इन द सेंस, अ थर्ड आइसोमर इन द सेंस दैट, ओके आई से कि इसे मैं डुप्लीकेट करता हूँ. आई से कि ओके I will have chlorine on this third carbon and hydrogen on this one. No, I cannot, because these two things are the same. You have to realize कि आप नंबरिंग करते हो उस कार्बन से जो कि क्लोजेस्ट है टू फंक्शनल ग्रुप. सो 1 2 3 4. इसमें कौन है क्लोजेस्ट? दिस वन. 1 2 3 4. सो अब देखो दोनों में सेकंड कार्बन पे क्लोरीन लगा है, फर्क नहीं पड़ा चाहे आप राइट से करो या लेफ्ट से. इट डज नॉट मेक इवन 1% का भी डिफरेंस. So this is not the case. This means we cannot make an isomer by changing the position of chlorine. No more. The other isomers will only and only be made from branching, from branch structures, right? From branch structures. So let's actually see. For example, मैं कहता हूँ कि मैं carbon, I draw carbons like this, and let me draw a CH3 here, right? I draw CH3 here. मैंने एक branch निकाल दी CH3 के ऊपर, ठीक है? I drew a branch of CH3 here. And now I have ClCH3. Now this is another isomer. How exactly? Because although the first carbon has chlorine, cool, but this second carbon has 3 carbons attached to it. However, in this one, the second carbon has only 2 hydrogens attached to it. Only 1 carbon attached to it, but this one has 3. So this is different in this case. कोई और ड्रॉ करने की कोशिश करते हैं, कोई और इस तरह की चीज़ सोचने की कोशिश करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं कहता हूँ, मैं 2 ब्रांचेस निकालता हूँ. मैं कहता हूँ कार्बन एंड यू हैव Cl here, CH3 here, CH3 here, CH3 here. So now tell me, this carbon has 3 carbons attached to it, but you know, and 1 Cl directly attached to it as well. This is different from this. This is very different from this, right? So आपने पहले आइसोमर्स बनाने होते क्लोरीन की पोजीशन चेंज कर करके, एंड द अदर पार्ट इज गोइंग टू बी डन बाय ड्रॉइंग ब्रांचेस. This is one branch, and now this is like 1 2 3. अनदर हमने एक और ब्रांच ही निकाल दी बिल्कुल. सो नाउ यू हैव दीज 4 एज 4 डिफरेंट यूनिक आइसोमर्स. इसके अलावा कोई अगर बन सकता है तो मुझे बना के दिखाओ. अगर आपको लगता है कि सर ये नहीं हो सकता, मुझे भेजो एंड आई टेल यू व्हाई दैट इज नॉट द केस. ठीक है, ये थोड़ा सा कॉमन सेंस होता है. ज़ारा या एनीवन हु इज वंडरिंग, दिस इज अ ट्रायल एंड एरर सॉर्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन. ट्रायल एंड एरर सॉर्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन है. ठीक है, क्लोरीन डिफरेंट ब्रांच कार्बन पे नहीं लगेगा, क्या मतलब? 3 कार्बन एंड चेंज द पोजीशन ऑफ Cl. ये वाला अच्छा, कहाँ लगाओगे Cl? मुझे बताओ कहाँ लगाओगे Cl. आप कहते हो कि आप यही करो, लेकिन Cl को कहीं और लगा दो. अभी कर देते हैं, मैं करके दिखा देता हूँ. ये देखो, आप कह रहे हो कि अच्छा फिर अगर Cl यहाँ नहीं होगा तो यहाँ H होगा फिर ऑब्वियसली, एंड फिर आप फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ CH2Cl कर देते हो. यही कह रहे हो. Isn't it the same thing as this? अच्छा मुझे नंबरिंग बताओ. इस कार्बन की फर्स्ट होगी, इसकी सेकंड, इसकी थर्ड, राइट? Again, now this carbon should be first, this should be second, this should be third then, right? Let's see. The first carbon has H2Cl. Here the first carbon has H2Cl. Here the second carbon has HCH3CH3. Second carbon has HCH3CH3. Okay, here the third carbon has H3, right? Here the third carbon has H3. So isn't it the same as this? It has the same structural formula, बच्चों. It has the same structural formula. That is why it is not different to it. समझ आई ज़ारा? Is this now clear? मेरी बात सुनो. लीव दिस डिबेट. आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन. ज़ारा, इज इट क्लियर? और एनीबडी हु वाज वंडरिंग कि अच्छा सर आपने ये कर दिया, लेकिन आप ये क्यों नहीं करें कि Cl इधर लगा दें और H इधर? क्योंकि मैं ये करूंगा तो ये दोनों एग्जैक्ट सेम चीज़ें हैं. कैसे सेम चीज़ें हैं? बिकॉज यहाँ फर्स्ट कार्बन पे देख लो, सेम काम हो रहा है. यहाँ सेकंड कार्बन पे देख लो, सेम काम हो रहा है. थर्ड कार्बन पे देख लो, सेम काम हो रहा है. So always and always, once you draw two structures ना, always I'll give you a hint. Once you draw two structures ना, उसमें कार्बन की नंबरिंग किया करो और फिर फर्स्ट कार्बन को फर्स्ट कार्बन से compare the second to the second, third to the third. If they're the same, then they have the same structural formula. But for isomers, it has to have a different structural formula. Cl above the carbon with CH3 in the propane one. इस वाले की बात कर रहे हो? इस वाले की बात कर रही हो ज़रा? Cl above the carbon with CH3. Cl above कहाँ? कौन सा? मुझे बताओ ज़रा, मुझे बताओ. Which one? The above one. ये वाला? This one? This one? Okay. So you're saying what if we put the Cl below the carbon with CH3? अच्छा, अभी कर देते हैं. इसको below करना है, मैं अभी बता देता हूँ क्या वहाँ क्या चक्कर चल रहा है. So you're saying कि you put Cl here and you put H here, right? अच्छा, ठीक है, cool. अभी देख लेते हैं. What is essentially wrong with this one? What is essentially wrong with this one? CH3. Okay. अच्छा, अब देखो, आपने ये करवा दिया. अब आप इन दोनों स्ट्रक्चर्स को देखो, नंबरिंग कर दो. Cl के साथ क्लोजेस्ट स्ट्रेट चेन ये बनती है 1 2 3. इसके Cl के साथ क्लोजेस्ट स्ट्रेट चेन 1 2 3 ऐसे बना लो. कूल, ऐसे बन गई ना. अब ज़रा देखो, फर्स्ट कार्बन हैज़ CH3, फर्स्ट कार्बन हैज़ CH3. ओके, सेकेंड कार्बन हैज़ Cl एंड CH3, सेकेंड कार्बन हैज़ Cl एंड CH3. थर्ड कार्बन हैज़ CH3, थर्ड कार्बन हैज़ CH3. अगेन द सेम थिंग. तो मतलब ये ट्विस्ट एंड टर्न करके सेम चीज़ें ही बनी जा रही हैं. तो ये चीज़ नहीं कर रही, ये टाइम लगेगा इसको कर करके. अगेन दीज क्वेश्चंस आर द ट्रिकीस्ट, बट इसमें टाइम लगा के आपको बार बार प्रैक्टिस करनी पड़ेगी, नंबरिंग करके, कंपेयर कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग कार्बन्स विद ईच अदर. ठीक है जी. you'll just know, you'll just मतलब आप जितनी पॉसिबिलिटी जेन में बना सकते हो यही बन सकती 3-4 जो मैंने बनाई थी, उसके अलावा 2 ही थी जो आपने बनवा दी. उसे बना के जस्ट फिनिश इट ऑफ, राइट? जस्ट फिनिश इट देयर एंड देन you'll understand. ये ट्रायल एंड एरर है यार. दिस इज लिटरली ट्रायल एंड एरर, नो अदर वे अराउंड इट. P is a branch hydrocarbon with the ratio of carbon atoms to hydrogen atoms being 1 to 2. Okay, it means it must be CnH2n. जितने कार्बन है उससे डबल हाइड्रोजन हो. Okay, this should be an alkene, but since it is branched, it can be a cycloalkane as well. P has a relative molecular mass of 56. Identity of P. Okay, so how many carbons do we have? 4. C4. How many hydrogens? We have 4 5 6. This is not CHH2n. Because अगर यहाँ C4 है तो H should have been 8. This is wrong. Let's talk about this. C4 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, C4H8, cool. You have C4, and how many hydrogens? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is again not C and H2N. C is also incorrect. Look at this. C 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now, A and C are clearly wrong. It should be either of these. Let's see which of these two have molecular mass of 6, MR of 6, 56, right? How many carbons here? 4. So 4 into 12 plus how many hydrogens? 8 into 1. So 4 into 12 is 48 plus 8, it is 56. Hence B is the answer. इसका MR देख लें. 5 into 12 is going to be 60 plus 10 into 1 is going to be 10. 60 plus 10 is 70. Hence this is wrong. Very easy question. Right. Which row gives the names of the two compounds? This is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 carbons. How many hydrogens? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 1, 6 plus 2, 8. C4H8. It is butene. And on which carbon is the double bond? 1, 2, 3, 4. After the first carbon, hence it is but1ene. It is but1ene. And look at this. इसे अगर मैं draw करूँ इस तरह से CHOH and you have CH3 and you have CH3. Right? If I draw it like this, on the second carbon we have OH, so it must be propan 2-ol, because we have OH on the second carbon, so it must be propan 2-ol and but1ene. So the correct option is only and only B. Clear as to what I mean by this? Looking on the first carbon as well. Not really. How exactly? ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. देखो ये OH जो उसने ब्रैकेट में लगाया, इट मीन्स इट इज़ अ ब्रांच. इसे हिंट लो, इट इज़ अ ब्रांच. और ब्रांच इसी से निकलेगी ना, बिकॉज अगर ये कार्बन एक हाइड्रोजन के साथ बना रहा है, एक CH3 के साथ बना रहा है, एक इस CH के साथ बना रहा है, तो ये एक ब्रांच ही होगी. इसे बना के दिखाओ. अच्छा, इफ़ यू आर सेइंग इट इज़ विद द फर्स्ट कार्बन, कैसे बनाओगे? अच्छा, CH3 ऐसे, OH कैसे बनाओगे? ऐसे OH, ये तो खत्म हो गया, बिकॉज अब H तो कोई और बॉन्ड नहीं बना सकता, राइट? सो उस तरह से सोचा करो इसको. मेक सेंस? मेक्स लॉट ऑफ सेंस. OH इज़ अ ब्रांच. यस सर, प्रोपेनॉल वाला समझ नहीं आया. आदि प्रोपेनॉल वाला क्यों नहीं समझ आया? मैंने प्रोपेनॉल का स्ट्रक्चर बनाया है. मैंने कहा ये फर्स्ट कार्बन है, ये सेकंड है, ये थर्ड है. या चलो ऐसे कर लो, ये फर्स्ट है, ये सेकंड है, ये थर्ड है. सेकंड कार्बन के साथ OH लगा है, इसका मतलब है प्रोपैन 2-ol. दिस 2 मीन्स कि सेकंड कार्बन के साथ OH ग्रुप है. 1-ol का मतलब होता है कि पहले के साथ OH होता तो फिर 1-ol होता. सिंपल. आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज एनीथिंग हार्ड. Which equation represents the reaction of ethane with chlorine in the presence of UV light? So ethane with chlorine. Let's see. CH3 is same in all. Cl2 is same in all. Let's see. So what essentially happens is कि CH3 one hydrogen is replaced by a chlorine. So one hydrogen is essentially replaced by a chlorine. So अब होगा क्या? इस हाइड्रोजन को खत्म करेंगे, क्लोरीन आएगी, and this hydrogen will go and form a bond with the leftover chlorine to form HCl, right? To form HCl, because Cl2 में से एक Cl इसके साथ आ जाएगा, दूसरा Cl उसी हाइड्रोजन के साथ HCl बना देगा. Makes tons of sense? Makes a lot of sense. अच्छा जी, तो अब हमें देखना है कि HCl should be a byproduct. हाइड्रोजन या क्लोरीन वाला चक्कर नहीं है. Now let's look at these two. There should be a chlorine, a Cl attached with this guy, but here you don't have a Cl. It just removed 2 of hydrogens. This is not how it works. There should be a Cl attached to this, so only B is the correct option. Clear? बच्चों किसी को नहीं समझ आ रहा तो प्लीज आस्क. You're not asking too many questions. I'm actually concerned. समझ आ रहा है? Don't be shy. नहीं आ रहा, मैं बहुत डिटेल में समझाऊंगा. Some people ask me to move a little faster. I'm explaining concepts and just skimming through them. लेकिन अगर आपको लग रहा है यार बिल्कुल मुश्किल है, नहीं समझ आया, तो मैं स्लो हो जाता हूँ. ठीक है? Just let me know. ठीक है? माशाल्लाह. अच्छा, clear everybody? We have a lot of students in the class, but not everyone is speaking. Saleh, Albiha, Zara, Subaina, Suhira, Shazain, Sulman, Sakina, Roshan, Neha, सब बताओ. Tell me, everybody. I want answers from everyone. Good, Ahmed, good. Okay, perfect. Which compound reacts with hydrogen in an addition reaction? So addition reaction is always alkene with hydrogen. With hydrogen, it always has to be an alkene, because the double bond will break and hydrogen will attach to that particular carbon with the double bond and make an alkane, right? Make an alkane. So the compound here must be an alkene. Let's actually draw and open this in terms of a displayed formula. CH3, this first carbon has 3 hydrogens. I attach 3 hydrogens. Second carbon has 1 hydrogen. Third carbon has 1 hydrogen. Fourth carbon has 3 hydrogens. And since it has 1 hydrogen, this carbon has 1, 2, 3 bonds. This one also 3 bonds. Fourth bond कैसे बनेगा? इसके बीच double करके. Okay. This is an alkene. Hence, this will definitely react with hydrogen to form an alkane. Answer मिल गया. अगर नहीं समझ आ रहा चलो ऐसे देख लो. 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. How many hydrogens? 10 hydrogens. C4H10 cannot be an alkene because it is the general formula of an alkane. It must be alkene. So B is wrong. It has oxygen. C, impossible. D also has oxygen, impossible because alkene does not have an oxygen. C is a carboxylic acid, D is an alcohol, B is an alkane, A is the only one that is an alkene. So A is correct, others are wrong. Which statement about carboxylic acids is correct? They are prepared by oxidation of alkanes. No, they are prepared by oxidation of alcohols. They decolorize bromine water. No, alkenes decolorize bromine water. They react with alcohols to form esters. Yes, they do. Simple. They react with carbonates to form salt, hydrogen and water. No, they react with carbonates to form salt, carbon dioxide and water. So this is also wrong. Cool? Okay. The structure of X and Y are shown. What is the structure of the polymer when X and Y react together? Okay. So बच्चों हमेशा polymer जब बनाना हो, this is a condensation polymer by the way. Remember the non-negotiable rule. OH will always go from the carboxylic acid. OH will always go from the carboxylic acid. This is the carboxylic acid group. OH will go from here. This is the carboxylic acid group. OH will get removed from here. And H will get removed from the other one. Only one hydrogen will get removed. Only one hydrogen will get removed. Right? And now let's actually join it. Let's actually draw it now. C double bond O. Because this OH is no longer there. It has CH2, 4. Again, C double bond O. This OH is not there. And one hydrogen is not there as well. So now you have N with only one hydrogen remaining. Now let's draw this CH2 6 times. And now you have NH, only one H is remaining. Bingo. Now that is your structure. Let's see which of these is this. C double bond O, CH2 4 times. CH2 4 times, CH2 4 times. This cannot be the answer because CH2 6 times, that is wrong. CH2 4 times, yes, that is correct. These are wrong, these are wrong. This and this can be the answer. And right after this, we have C double bond O. Right after this, you should have C double bond O. But here, right after this, you have NH. This is wrong. So C double bond O, then NH. Yes, you have NH. Then CH2 6 times, then CH2 6 times, then NH, and then NH. Yes, so A completely agrees with what I said. कुछ भी नहीं करना होता. Condensation polymer बनाना है ना बच्चों. Remove OH from the carboxylic acid. Remove one hydrogen from the others and just join them. Just join them. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Cool. समझ गए. मारम बस करो यार, पढ़ो. Okay, good day. आगे आ जाओ. Which diagram shows a measuring cylinder? Very easy. See, clearly measuring cylinder. Clearly a measuring cylinder. This is a pipette. This is a burette. This is a beaker sort of thing. This is a measuring cylinder. Very easy and convenient to see. Chromatogram of mixture X and pure substances P, Q, R, and S is shown. Which statement is correct? R is completely in. So basically, this is a chromatography run. This one shows 3 spots. This one shows only 1 spot. This only 1 as well. Only one. R is completely insoluble in the solvent used. Is R completely insoluble in the solvent used? Again, now your knowledge about chromatography should be spot on. Okay, let's read the options. RF value of Q is greater than the RF value of S. RF value किसकी greater होती है जो ज़्यादा travel करे? Let's see. Q travels like this. S travels like this. So definitely Q traveled more. इसकी RF value is going to be greater. So this seems to be correct to me. यहीं पे correct हो गया. X is a mixture of Q, R and S. So let's see. X is a mixture of Q, R है बिल्कुल because it is on the same spot. Q है, yes, I agree. And what about S? S is not here, because if S is here, there should have been a spot here as well. So that is wrong. That is completely wrong. The paper is placed in the solvent with the solvent base above the baseline. No, the solvent should be below the baseline. If it is above the baseline, because the baseline is drawn with a pencil, then that could cause problems. We only want the inks to travel up, not the pencil, not the line we drew using the pencil, right? So the solvent must always be below the baseline. That is a rule. That is a rule. Cool? Understood? It's not annoying, it is easy. Claire ab tak I had a teacher, she got married, now my class teacher is someone who says this is wrong. But then God gave you me, so be happy. That is, sir, A is wrong. Yeah, A is wrong. A is wrong. Yeah. It is not completely insoluble in the solvent use. No, because if it was insoluble, it would not have even traveled. ये इसने थोड़ा सा ट्रैवल किया, इसका मतलब है सॉल्युबल है. इनसॉल्युबल होता तो ट्रैवल ही ना करता, राइट? या चलो जी. सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड इज अ गैस दैट इज प्रिपेयर्ड बाय हीटिंग सोडियम सल्फाइड विद हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड. इट इज एन एसिडिक गैस. सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड इज मोर डेंस देन एयर. इट मीन्स इट शुड ट्रैवल डाउनवर्ड्स. कोई अपवर्ड डिलीवरी वाला चक्कर ही नहीं है, ऊपर जा ही नहीं सकता, बिकॉज इट इज मोर डेंस देन एयर. इट विल फॉल डाउन. More dense falls down, less dense goes up, right? So it must fall down. It must fall down. Hence D is incorrect. ऊपर तो जा ही नहीं सकता. D यहीं पे incorrect हो गया. पहले ही निकाल दो. खैर, which set of apparatus is suitable for preparing and collecting a dry sample of sulfur dioxide? So यहाँ पे you're heating it. Sulfur dioxide is being produced. It goes here. Okay, blocked. It cannot go here. Cool. It goes here. Goes into sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is a drying agent. It can dry it. Okay, we want to collect a dry sample of sulfur dioxide. Cool. And when it's dried, it goes back here and is collected like this. And it goes down because it is more dense than air. A seems to be correct to me. A seems to be correct. What's wrong with B? You see, when you heat it and sulfur dioxide is produced, what if it goes there and escapes in the air? We don't want that. We want it to be trapped. Here it cannot go. But here it can escape in the air. That is the problem with this apparatus. B is incorrect. What about C? What about C? Sulfur dioxide is produced. It cannot go there. Cool. It goes here. It goes to calcium oxide. Now what is the problem here? Calcium oxide is a basic oxide. Because it is a metallic oxide, it is a basic oxide. SO2 is an acidic oxide. SO2 is an acidic oxide. When acid and base react, they will just react here. And we will not get the SO2 we want. We don't want SO2 to react. We want SO2 to just get dry and collect for us. So here reaction will take place. SO2 will now be used up. That is not what we want. Hence C is incorrect. And why is D incorrect? Because okay, SO2 goes here, gets dry, but since SO2 is more dense than air, it should come down. It cannot go up, right? So D is incorrect for this case. Hence A is the only correct option. Invite us to LAMS. Okay. मसला पता है क्या है? मसला सिर्फ ये कि on one student card you can have one visitor to visit. तो अगर तुम सबको बुला लिया तो मैं कैसे एंटर कराऊंगा? मैं सिर्फ एक को करा सकता हूँ. All of the drying agents. Zara, only the ones mentioned in your syllabus. For example, sulfuric acid mentioned है, इस तरह की चीज़ें. Oh yeah, that's how it is. I would say refer to the syllabus, Zara. Refer to the syllabus whenever you have such questions, and you should know how to refer to the syllabus. I can tell you these answers, but syllabus खुद पढ़ो and then you should tell me कि सर क्या सीखना, right? रोज़ एक को बुलाएं, सर क्या बात है, यही करता हूँ. But इंशाल्लाह we'll see, we'll do something, don't worry. ठीक है जी. अच्छा, a colorless solution of compound W, last question यार, is tested separately with a few drops of aqueous sodium hydroxide and a few drops of aqueous ammonia. No precipitate is observed in either of the test. What is the cation in W? What do you guys say? If you guys tell me the correct answer, I won't even solve this. I think it is very easy. If you guys tell me the correct answer. Maram, you have done the paper. I'm not talking about you. Anybody else? D. Okay, cool. And why is that? Because NH4, if you look at the chemical test for NH4, let me show you the entire table, in fact. So, test for cation का table. क्योंकि that table is very, very important. That table is very, very important. अगर वो समझ आ गया तो it will make a lot more sense. मैं ऐसे बता दूँ लेकिन table में सारा कुछ given होता है. So, there you have. This is from Save My Exams, by the way. Kudos to them for providing us with this beautiful little table. And if you look at this, if you look at NH4 being tested, so if you add NaOH, ammonia is produced, and obviously you can test it using a litmus paper. And when you add ammonia, adding an ammonia solution, there is Nothing happens essentially. So essentially no PPT formed in any case. No PPT formed in any case. Compare that to copper. अगर आप copper को टेस्ट करो precipitate बन रहा है. अगर आप calcium को टेस्ट करो precipitate बन रहा है. If you talk about aluminum, there is a precipitate. But here there is no precipitate. Hence D is the only correct option. Very easy and simple. If you know the concept, you'll do great.